The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
All right.
Hello, everyone. My name is Adam, and welcome to the first in what will be a series of webinars on the Gizra Way. By way of introduction, I want to relate my experience with what we call the Gizra Way. I joined the Gizra team less than 6 months ago as they launched their US-based office. And after a decade in the nonprofit world, I was pretty used to using the term open source as a sort of substitute for collaborative and or transparency. And when I came to work at a web development team, I said, yeah, I get it. It's open source and you call it the Gizra way. I got it. But quickly as I immersed myself in business development and project management, I found myself uncomfortable. All of my ideas, some of them a little bit half-baked, out in the open, my successes, my failures equally represented in full view. So I called Amitai and I said, hey, listen, I know this applies to development and I know this is really successful, but I have to say that applying some of this transparency to business development and sales, it makes me a little bit uncomfortable. And without pausing, he quickly said back to me, Adam, if you're a little uncomfortable, the method is working. And I think in a nutshell, that sort of describes the Gizra way that we want to present here. A little uncomfortable, a radical way of looking at business processes, but using a familiar methodology. Today, Amitai, who's one of the architects of this philosophy, is going to present on price estimation and budget goggles and the time box project. So without further ado, Amitai Burstein, CTO of Gizra.
All right. Thank you, Adam. We should find a nice tone for starting the webinar. All the webinars and podcasts have it. So just a word of caution that yesterday we had a fun day, as you know, Adam, in Gizra, and the last thing we had was a cocktails and alcohol workshop, and I volunteered for way too many rounds. So the webinar today will be a little slower with simpler English words. But as you said, without further ado, let's start. So indeed, I'll go very quickly. My name is Amitai Burstein. I'm the CTO and co-owner of Gizra. Amitaibu is my nickname on Twitter. And we have this hashtag, the Gizra way, which Adam will keep an eye over. And you can, ask questions there or ask questions in the application. Basically, Adam, it's not a presentation or a normal presentation. It's it's a webinar. We can ask questions and we can answer it as we go. So indeed, this webinar today is the gist of it is how to write price offer, and I will immediately start with revealing what my agenda or our agenda over here. So I think probably everybody that's listening, or most people that are listening, are coming from the open source world, and they, Adam, if you have people with closed source mindset and they're asking you, hey, aren't you afraid of opening the code that everybody can see it? Aren't you afraid of losing your job? And you're probably like, yeah, you're already smiling because you know that's not going to happen, right? Open source, sharing the knowledge doesn't mean you're giving away everything. You're just giving some of the knowledge. And it seems that traditionally the entire sales process is kind of, it remains in the dark, right? I've seen blog posts of people sharing maybe their Excel, their templates of how they write the price offer, but I've never or yet to see somebody that's really showing me A to Z how this super important part in the life of a project is happening. So let's try to do it ourselves, and that's our agenda of basically, showing it to everybody. Obviously, we'll be happy if there will be feedback on Twitter, people talking about it, but we're basically sharing it the same way we would share organic groups model or entity reference model. So this is the second slide of every presentation that I give about Gizra, and it comes with the title that by default IT projects will fail. And this really opens up the eyes of people who are in the room because they're so familiar for this, salespeople trying to sell them the entire universe, and we're starting with the word failure. And I really love this picture because it really encapsulates the idea of, planning. Bonus points if you can find the letter C in the word college over here in the picture. And you know, projects, and if you've worked in this in this industry, you know that projects can fail for so many reasons: scope creep and too much management and wrong estimation and so on and so forth. Getting it right is really, really hard. And you know, if we talk about what is the definition of success, in the end, the definition of success isn't that complicated. It should be on time, it should be on budget, and the users are happy. So the first two are kind of easy to figure out. On time, you just look at your clock. Am I on time? Am I not on time? On budget, I take my Gizra credit card, I go to the bank, to the ATM machine, I try to withdraw money. Am I getting money or am I not getting money? And users are happy. Obviously, this is much harder to figure out, but still, again, if you're in the industry, if you're working in projects, it's not that hard to know if your clients are happy or not. And it's hard to satisfy, although if you will be on time and if you'll be on budget, you're already on the right direction. And it might be kind of trivial what I'm going to say, but we found that the two main reasons for things to start failing are setting expectations and common language. So setting expectation, your client can be technical or not technical, but they probably have in their head, they have Facebook and they have Google, but honestly, they do not have the budget of Google or the budget of Facebook. They have way less budget, but still they're imagining their system working in a certain way. Setting expectation isn't about arguing and fighting with them. It's about, hey, listen, this is your budget, this is your timeline, this is what you're able to get. When you're able to set expectation as early on as possible, you'll figure out how the end client is becoming happier because they're not disappointed of the final outcome, even if it was on time and on budget. And the common language is basically saying, you know, let's say, Adam, that you're the client and you're in the, I don't know, in the higher ed education.
Let's say I am the client, or I was the client.
You were the client, that's right. That's actually the truth. So the thing is, if you're coming from universities, let's say, I need to understand just about enough about your world, how it works, what is the hierarchy, what are the lingo, what are the terminology that you are using. You need to understand just about enough about my world. What does an entity mean? What is a node? What is an entity reference? None of us will, you know, quit our day jobs, but we'll have a good understanding of our communication, what we're expecting from one and from each other. So our way of, you know, I can start stopping and say the word failure and let's start talking about success. Our way, Gizra way of trying to figure out how to bring projects to success, we are calling it the Gizra way. This is, you know, a set of different working methodologies that we've, you know, acquired for so many years. Most of it, you know, we borrowed, not to say stole, from the open source community. Some of them we've, you know, we've contributed ourselves. And, you know, for years it has been mostly about development, how to write code, how to write documentation, how to write automatic tests, how to do code review. That's fine, that's awesome. But gradually we've started figuring out the technical parts. That's important. Let's assume that everybody that's listening to the webinar, they're awesome, you know, either developer, single developer, or the team of developers. Everybody is awesome. Let's put it on the side for 1 second. As awesome as you are, if you did not have a proper discovery phase, if you did not set the expectation correctly, if there is no common language with the client, well, you can code really, really well, but you're still in a big problem. So basically, the Gizra way has started shifting and becoming something more holistic about how we're looking at projects, at stuff in general, even how we're looking at Gizra itself as a business. And basically, one of the things, the terms that we started talking about are the budget goggles. The fact that in the end, your budget, whatever project it is, the budget is dictating almost everything. So yeah, we can talk about transparency and honesty and lots of things that are really, really, and I truly believe in them, that are really, really important. But in the end, it doesn't matter, you, the client, how much you want a certain feature. If you do not have the budget for that, if you don't have the money for that, it will just not work. So the budget goggles are basically saying, tell me what you want, tell me your fantasy, or let me understand. You know, sometimes you need to say to the client, listen, I'm listening to what, I'm trying to figure out what you want, not necessarily what you're saying, right? And I'm taking your budget and I move all the ideas and I put them under the budget goggles filter, and through that we're able to start understanding how the project will look. So basically, we like to say that, you know, every feature, every bug, every single pixel you have on your web, it has a certain price tag, no matter how you look at it. And you know, your project, it can be time and material, or can it be fixed price? In a way, we're looking at everything as fixed price, because that's what you have. You have a certain budget. It doesn't really matter how you're being paid. In the end, it's either you have $200,000 or $300,000. Even if it's a time and material, you will not get more. It can be $30,000. So we like to say every feature or bug has a price tag, and the small, you know, the small line under it, that's the important thing. The client shouldn't, next time I'll check for typos in the word shouldn't, but the client should they buy them all, or at least they shouldn't buy them all at once. So one of the important things, and if you arrive to the webinar to hear about price offer, here you can start seeing the first Excel sheet. And this is actually, when I'm pitching about Gizra, you know it, Adam, because you've heard it so many times, and you can assure everybody. That's actually the third slide I'm already showing in the Gizra presentation, because this Excel sheet, in a way, we're looking at it as kind of the map of the success of your project. Because what we're doing over here, we're taking every single feature that you have on your website, and we start to break it down to small line items. And when I say small line items, I mean that no single line item would be more than 12 hours. Why 12 hours? Because it's not 10, it's not 15, it's a good number, right? It's 1 day and a half. Just because we're saying estimating more than that, it's really hard. I mean, try to estimate something that takes 4 days. You can try to do it, but you'll be less accurate. And what we care about is being accurate over here. And soon enough, you'll see how we're building such an Excel sheet. But the important thing that you can see over here is, by breaking down all the features, suddenly setting the expectation and common languages become really clear. Because, you know, let's talk about here the markup of the desktop. I can see the about page should take about 4 hours, and I can see the cost that it's going to cost. And suddenly we're talking, I can talk with the client, and, you know, that's the amount of hours that it's going to take the markup, 4 hours. It doesn't take 1 minute, it doesn't take 40 hours, right? And that's the price. And suddenly we can go on every line item and better understand what's going on. Furthermore, later on, when we share this price offer, the signed price offer with the developers, even the developers understand what are the expectations. You know, developers, we let ourselves, you know, we can probably work on the markup of the about page for 40 hours if we would be given the time and the budget, right? Because we'll be extra, I don't know, try to do everything twice just to be extra sure and whatnot. But, you know, in the end, like we said, the budget is dictating something, and I know that I have 4 hours over here. So we'll go back to the Excel sheet in more depth, just because the idea of the webinar, that in the end you'll be able to, you know, implement our way of building the price offer. So
Amitai, can I ask you, before you go into detail on the sheet, I just wanted to point out that this was a piece of the Gizra way price estimation that really made my stomach do somersaults at the beginning, because it's so not the way I was used to being approached as a client. And I I met Gizra for the first time as a client, and it's not the way that I understood, having done lots of pricing for services in the past, the way you approached a client, that you're supposed to do this long series of meetings where you understand what it is exactly that they're looking for, and let's not talk about that dirty piece of the puzzle, which is money or budget, until we really understand truly what you want. Can you clarify a little bit or talk a little bit more about why you feel it's so important to put this part first?
Sure. So let me show you the next slide, which is actually starting to answer the last question. So
That's
I agree. That's a new slide. You did not know about it. I did not know about this question, and you did not know about this slide. But so this is kind of answering in the end. Thing about the bush. Yeah, you can have long discovery phase, and sometimes you need to have long discovery phase, right? And you can charge for a long discovery phase, or you need a 2 or 3 weeks. But I'll start with the beginning, with the most important thing. We did not start with this Excel sheet, and boy, do I regret doing that, because we had a bunch of horribly estimated fixed price project where we lost tons of money. And I love telling it to everybody, also new leads. I love telling it them, because I always say, you want to go with a company or with a team that already knows what are the implications of not having correct estimation. So, for example, there was a project that we really horribly estimated, and building such a price offer nowadays can take us about from half a day's work to even 5 days. Let's say that's 5 days. We're investing some good time. 5 days of a certain person sitting down, and then a senior developer or me or my colleague Brice will go over it. So we're investing a lot of time, resources, meaning money on that. However, remembering how much money we lost in previous project, you're saying losing 5 days, it's nothing. I lost 50 days, I lost 100 days. So basically, yes, this is our price estimation is kind of a light discovery phase that we might be doing for free. But on the same time, you need to remember that indeed, as you're saying, as a client, we're not used to getting something like that. There is also kind of a pre-sale merit to doing something like that, because as a client, you probably got a few price offers detailing, that it wasn't too detailed, you just got the bottom line, and suddenly you're getting from this weird company a crazy long line item explaining that basically they understand you and you understand them, and suddenly it basically places you in a different place. And it has if we're talking about tender or bids where you don't have actually any connection with who you're bidding to, then suddenly your price offer looks different. It's not that we're winning all the time, but definitely somebody will remember that price offer. So does it answer the question, Adam?
Yeah, thanks.
All right, cool. So I mean, when I built this slide, I told myself, when I'm going to a restaurant and somebody is telling me, that they're telling me about the special menu, the special order, I found that 99% of the time I never order it unless they're gonna tell me what is the price, because they're telling me about a special thing, but I don't know what's the price, so I'm kind of afraid. And if you're going to a discovery phase and you're talking about all the fantasy, and we know clients come with a lot of fantasy, and that's fine. They have the vision, but how is it connected to the budget? So when we're sitting, we're asking, what is your budget? Can you tell me, or can you not tell me? And if you don't tell me, that's fine. I can try and guess, and I really quickly try to bring you something just to see that we're on the same page. Because if you're thinking $5,000 and I'm thinking $500,000, then we're probably not communicating. We're probably not communicating properly. So I want to really jump in and show an example of how we would do a price offer for something quite imaginary. So just for the sake of, people won't argue, okay, those Gizra folks, they want everything completely perfect before they're starting to work. I did not take an existing site. I really sketched it up in less than 2 minutes. And you'll actually recognize so many sites that have the same exact structure, right? You have the header with the logo, with the search, you can log in, you have a navbar. Under that, you have a section with the carousel, recent post that shows you, a list of with thumbnail, title, and a teaser, some text that the client may possibly change, a contact form, and in the footer, some links, the icons, and a copyright, right? You would agree with me, Adam, this is your typical layout for the homepage. It can, it can be more complicated than that, but let's see how I would come and, start analyzing real quickly that thing and put it down into numbers. So for that, and for the viewers at home, Adam, maybe you can also tweet those links so people can see. So the first link, this is the price offer template, which is basically you should have view-only access and you can duplicate and start using it yourself. The second link, the price offer webinar, this is where I'm actually going to do the work live, so you can either follow from, from the GoToMeeting or directly from the Excel sheets. So I'm going to go ahead and open this Excel sheet, the price offer budget goggles webinar, and we'll start doing analysis. So as time permits, maybe I won't be able to do everything, but I want to give you the gist of things just so you better understand what's going on. All right, are we good, Adam? Can I start over there?
Yep, I tweeted out the spreadsheet under the hashtag, and I'm going to put it in the chat as well.
All right, sounds good. So let's start looking at my marvelous sketch that I have over here, and the idea of how we're building the price offer is, I don't care about the bottom line. I don't know. I mean, if you'd ask me, Adam, you're coming to me as a client, hey, Amitai, how many days will it take you to work? I don't know. I cannot estimate it like that. And doing some crazy formula per page, it's going to take me this and that many hours. Honestly, I'll be a little afraid, because there's always something hidden over there that you're afraid of missing. So what I'm doing is I start going over every single item that I see on the screen. I'm starting to think as markup, and later on it will be translated into a feature. In a way, I'm looking at it, this is kind of a puzzle, or a string that I'm starting to pull from one place, and I'm starting to uncover all the different functionality that we have. So let's start with the markup. And over here in the markup, I'm saying, and this is actually reality, nothing happens by itself, right? It's not that I'm sitting in front of my screen, our developer is sitting in front of the screen, and suddenly, magically, the logo appears on the top left. Somebody has to do something. So just for the sake of the argument, let me just add a few more lines. I'm always starting with the markup desktop. That's how I'm looking. I never start immediately with functionality. I start just with the markup. It's not functionality, it's not connected to anything, it's just HTML and CSS. So we can say we have the markup desktop, and let's even say this is the general markup and desktop, and I can start saying, okay, so I have the header. Sorry, let me make it bold. I could say I have the header, which is basically, just placing, let's say, the logo and the login link. And let's say that along the header, I have the search input. The search is there, right? But having the search over there in the markup, it does not mean I just have the HTML. It doesn't mean that I actually have, search API connected or whatnot. So immediately I can stop myself. And again, this is the way I'm working. If somebody wants to work in a more systematic way and end just with the markup, they can obviously go ahead and do that. This is just a serving proposition. So when I'm going to write a search input, I can go ahead and immediately write in the general functionality, well, yeah, I have the search. This is, I don't know, just connecting search API over here. Now, again, having search API in your website, it does not work automatically. It does not work magically. It doesn't take 1 minute to do it, but on the other hand, it doesn't take 100 hours. So it's really about looking at one single thing and tell yourself how much time it's gonna take me. So search API, let's say it takes me, I don't know, let's say 1 hour to set it up, or let's say 2 hours. Again, every person will write their own functionality. I'm not adding any buffer over here. I'm trying to be very, very exact. How much time exactly it's going to take? And mind you, that's a critical thing. I'm not adding buffer. I'm really trying to be exact and tell myself, okay, search API. So now I'm giving it. Now you're not the client. Now you're the developer, Adam. I'm giving it to you. I tell myself, okay, Adam is starting to work at 9 o'clock in the morning. By 11, it's going to be ready, perfect. All the tests are passing. Travis is working, satisfied. I just need to click on the merge. So this is exactly 2 hours, no more, no less. All right, so we have the search inputs, and now we have the navbar with all the menu links. So I can call it navbar. If I want to add something, I can write menu links. You can see I don't have a description. I don't have nothing because I'm not looking at it's going to be a long list, but I'm not looking at, this is not a new spec, right? It's not about writing comments and comments and comments. It's really getting in a glimpse with my inventory list, what do I have in place?
For me, Amitai, when you forced me to do this the first time, taking away that description field was the most helpful thing, because there's a tendency to, I'm going to put something very general in this box here, and then I'm going to describe it over in the description box, and that's where things start to get a little bit fuzzy. And I remember the first time we talked about one of the price estimations I did, you said, you put 20 hours here, but what is that 20? What do you mean for 20 hours? And then we talked about a 12-hour maximum. But the point being that if you have no description, you're forced to describe in small units of functions and time.
Exactly. I think what you're saying about being forced. We are putting boundaries to ourselves just to be very, very accurate with what we're saying. So I'm under the general markup. So let's say that over here, the rest I have the home page. So let's just, this is homepage specific. So let's talk about the footer. So in the footer, I have the footer links. I have the footer icons to Facebook and whatnot. And I have the footer copyright. So just so people won't blame me of being that much of an asshole and charging for every single thing. So first of all, yeah, I'm going to charge for every single thing because somebody is working on that. But let's say that, a footer copyright is really, this is one of the very, very few things that literally takes you less than 5 minutes. If it takes you more than 5 minutes, you have a different problem. Price offer is not your problem. So this is where I place, and I have very, very small, very, very little amount of places like that I will just write a 0. And the 0 is important. First, remember, this is an inventory list. If it's not written over here, and again, you need to show some flexibility with the client, but in general, if it's not written over here in the inventory list, it's not going to happen. So in a way, the footer copyright is just acknowledging, yeah, obviously I know you want to have a copyright. I'm going to write it over there. Writing the 0 also has the merits. Again, we're talking about pre-sales. So for example, login and user and retrieve your password. Obviously, this functionality is implied by having a login link. I wouldn't charge them for doing a login. It's coming with Drupal for free. This is a place where I'll write login and registration 0. Again, I'm just acknowledging this is not just for anonymous users, but obviously I'm not gonna charge you over there. So again, I've written the header, I've written the search input. Usually what I'm doing, I just wanted to show you a few items, and then I can go ahead and start writing the hours. Now, again, writing the hours, who is writing the hours? That's a very critical point. And if you listen to the Gizra Way session I've been giving in the past, which I was saying, only senior developers or somebody that really understands the implication of sending a price offer should do it, I think I was wrong, or partially wrong, in the sense that now our onboarding process is actually, and this is something new, everybody are writing price offers. So if you're on the sales team, or the QA team, on the development team, account manager team, you are writing price offers because it's really putting you in the right place of understanding things. But I always say, listen, it's up to you to do this light discovery phase, up to you to write the time estimation that you think, but it's my responsibility in the end to do, a proper review. And when I'm sending it, if I got something wrong, I got it wrong. So for the header, let's say, again, the header doesn't happen by itself. Let's say that the markup is taking 3 hours. Remember, no buffer, no nothing. It should be exact. If I'm starting at 9, by 12 o'clock, it should be perfect, pixel perfect, just for the desktop. And placing the search input might take me 1 hour, and the menu links might take me, again, 3 hours, and the footer links will take me 1 hour, and the footer icons are 1 hour. As simple as that, right? I mean, if you're, you're now back a client, you're looking at the thing, so yeah, footer links, it takes an hour, it doesn't happen by itself. The HTML should be perfect according to what the designer have done. So now I can take this general functionality, and the way I'm constructing my Excel, it's constantly, I'm constantly shifting and adding more rows and so on. So I have the general markup desktop, and now I'm basically copying it, and I'm saying for the mobile. So for the header, again, for the header to fit exactly to the mobile, it doesn't happen for itself. Let's say it will take me 1 hour, but the search input, honestly, it's just 0. I have nothing to do over there. But the menu links for the navbar on mobile, I need, there's some work, JavaScript going on over there. Maybe it will take me, 3 hours just to get it right. So I actually feel more comfortable and write 2. Footer links 0, 0, 0. Okay, so this is, again, the mobile is kind of a derivative of what we have, in the functionality. How are we with time? Should I go quicker, or are we still okay, Adam?
We're good. We've got about 5 to 10 more minutes.
All right, so let's talk about the homepage markup for desktop, because that's an important part, obviously, because we're starting to talk about functionality. And this is an important and critical place to understand how much flexibility do we give our client. Is the carousel hard-coded? Or is it some kind of a content type that the user can change? Is the some text that appears over here, again, is it hard-coded, or is it some content type? And each one, it really depends on what you want to give the client. So just for the sake of the argument, the client is say, yeah, I want to change the carousel every week, but the text should be hard-coded. So again, if I'm just talking about markup right now, I have the carousel markup. And this one is going to take me 4 hours, and I have the recent posts. And this one, the markup is going to take me 4 hours. But I'm going to jump and say, the carousel and the recent post, that's data. These are nodes, right? It's content type. So let's go ahead and write it down over here. So in the content type, I'm going to have a carousel content type, and I'm going to have a post content type. And I can tell you that I almost always charge about 5 hours per content type. And you might ask, what? Just for adding a new node type and a few fields? No, just for adding a content type and a few fields, for writing bhat test to confirm that I've got it right, to write some migrates. So in terms of functionality, I can check it with dummy content. This is the way we're working with installation profile. And remember, those 5 hours, it's meaning that after 5 hours, I never should talk, on the first phase at least, I never should touch the content types again. So this is kind of a place we really have a fancy formula. We found that 5 hours, this is about the time that it takes us. This is just for the content type, right? It's just saying that I have this data going on over here, and I have here, let's say, text is probably a wrong name. So text section for the sum text over here. I have the contact form. Let's say just on the home page. But again, this will imply that I have some functionality. So let's write homepage functionality. So I have the contact form. Again, nothing happens by itself. Something should connect the contact that we got almost for free from Drupal into the actual markup. Something should go over there. So yeah, maybe it's going to take me just 1 hour to set up this functionality, and the contact form is pretty easy. It's going to take me, let's say just for the markup of the desktop, it's going to take me 1 hour. But I was able to break it down in a very clear way. And the text section, we said it's hard-coded, so let's say there's some fancy text, fancy styling going over there, but it starts and ends just as a markup. And then I will repeat the same thing, and I'll just say this is the mobile. So definitely the mobile will need something to do with the carousel and the recent posts. Maybe I'll hide the thumbnail, so it will take me 1 hour. But for the rest of the stuff, it will take 0 time. And basically, I think you're getting, right? I hope the audience is already also getting the gist. And look at one of the important things that we've done. We've almost discussed all the functionality that's going over here and the functionality that is implied, right? We have a search, but it probably means that we also have a search results page, right? Otherwise, it doesn't really make sense. And we actually need to do the search results page markup. Again, it doesn't happen by itself. And same thing goes for the mobile, right? Yeah, I put it under general just because there's not much time, and I want to do it quickly. But notice something pretty nice, Adam, is we actually didn't talk about the bottom line. We didn't care. We just cared about one single thing. Now we can go down. So yeah, it's going to take us 62 hours, what we discussed up until now, because we're also charging project management 20% more. So this number over here, the $6,000 something, this is because this is our rate for every different company. It can change. What's important is the number of hours that I'm really feeling confident in giving it to the developers. So let's jump back into the presentation real quickly, just so I'll be able to summarize some of the things that we are saying over here. So like we said, yeah, senior person should review it. A price offer is obviously just a price offer, but it's also a light discovery phase and a pre-sale. But let's talk about the time boxing, because again, so yeah, we have a perfect process and whatnot, but then if we send it to the developers and they don't care about the hours, so it's not going to work. So basically, another side effect of having this price offer, which is so detailed, is we have a nice little script that knows how to take the price offer and just create issues. Just create issues from there, and in the title, we also mark the number of hours. And this is a really important piece of the puzzle, because every developer, when they're getting a task, we're setting expectation with them. We're saying this, doing the markup for, what was it, for the carousel or for the header, it's going to take 3 hours. You need to make sure it's taking 3 hours. And if you see that you're not going to be in time, then go to the team lead and talk with them and tell them, listen, I'm afraid I got it wrong. And if you reach the 3 hours, then come with the team lead and have a discussion with me or some other senior developer or somebody in charge of the project. And we're not shouting, it's nothing like that. We're doing a small research to understand what went wrong. Either I got there, maybe we did a wrong time estimation, or maybe the designer did something crazy, or maybe the developer didn't understand it correctly, or maybe the team lead didn't explain it correctly. But this is where we circle back and we're saying, on time, on budget, users are happy. We're actually able to do it per line item. Am I on time and on budget on this small 2-hour thing? So I don't need to lose 20 days. I was able to lose, let's say, 2 hours and really have a real insight into the success of the project. And again, just to emphasize, what we want is to be accurate. This is part of maybe the transparency and honesty. If I'm going to say it's going to be 2 hours, I don't want to add the buffer. In a way, the buffer is added by me adding price estimation for every single item that you see over there. This is in a way my buffer, but I want to be accurate. if I estimated a project in 100 hours and I'm going to do it in 80 hours, I'm not going to be pleased. Well, I'm going to be a little more pleased than if I did it in 120 hours. But see, I want to be accurate because this tells me I know how to do the estimation. And when I have to estimate a project in 1,000 hours, I will be more confident. And that's it. That's the Gizra way of, here, I'll jump all the way back to the first slide so people have the hashtag if they want. That's the Gizra way of the sales. I was very excited on giving this webinar because I think it's, it's showing some of the stuff that it's usually in the dark. And, if there are some, Adam, you'll tell me if there are some questions from the audience, then maybe we can go ahead.
There's a comment in a couple questions, or 2 questions, and if anyone else has any questions, you can use the question function in the GoToWebinar, or you can tweet it at hashtag the Gizra way. Somebody tweeted that this looks like the atomic design method for price estimation, and I was thinking about that while you were speaking. What do you think about that?
I think it's mostly right in the sense that we're breaking down things. Maybe in general, I agree with this thing. The only thing is atomic kind of implies there's no context. There's just this small atom. And I'm saying, yeah, there's just this small atom, but it's always coming from a certain context. So, sometimes I written the search functionality. I just taken the easiest search functionality. Maybe the client is coming and saying, yeah, we want some crazy, autocomplete with natural language and whatnot. This is the place where we'll be able to communicate, hey, your vision of it does not translate well to budget, and I can put you the line item. I'm going to do some quick research and I tell you, listen, the autocomplete with natural language is going to take you 100 hours. And what we're suggesting as a first step is going to take 4 hours. You're the client, you can decide, but we're not just there to be some nice development team that you'll tell me put the yellow button on the top left. I'm going to help you, I'm going to partner with you and try to help you and decide what's the right thing that falls down in your budget.
Second question I see is, literally, so come on, you really have your developers at all levels write price estimations?
Yes. Yes, furthermore, I would say that not just developers are working on it. So, we have Rachel that she's doing an amazing job with marketing and biz dev. She's as technical as, every person that's dealing with the internet. She knows what logging in, what search is. She's not a developer, and she's been writing price estimation. And we gain so much. It's like telling developers start doing code review because you'll suddenly feel and understand better the code. Same thing happened with her. So when she wrote her price offer, and I was able to much better explain her how this technical world is working, because we were able to break it down, and I got kind of a Röntgen, an X-ray look into how she thinks it projects. So if she's telling me search will take 20 hours, then I'll say, hey, why do you think it's going to take 20 hours? And we're able to break it down. So definitely, it's not just every developer is gonna do it. Part of our new onboarding program is every complete newbie that starts in Gizra need to write a real-time estimation and act according to that. If they're a developer, they're going to build that site really quickly just to see how it's being translated correctly. So that's the long answer for saying yes, everybody.
And I'll just add on from my perspective, the thing that I like best about that is that if there's 3 legs that your success depends on, and 2 of them are budget and time, then it's really important that everybody who works on your projects, whether they work on them from a marketing perspective, a business perspective, or a development perspective, understands what an hour means, that understands what an hour of development time means. And the only way to understand that is to get down to the nitty gritty. And I think the other thing I like about it is, having done a lot of price estimations in other contexts in the past, you often find yourself saying to yourself, well, what does the customer want to pay? Like, what do they really want to pay? And then I can backward engineer my work to what they want to pay. And you get yourself into trouble time and time again. You either get yourself into trouble because you've committed yourself to too much, or you get yourself into trouble because you're taking advantage of a client who wants to pay more.
Yeah,
and
exactly. And you can go also back and forth. I mean, you can show the price estimation to the client, tell them, okay, this is your fantasy, right? We've written your fantasy and it goes up to $100,000, but you actually have about $50,000. So now we can do a process together, you and us, of putting everything into budget. So this is just to echo, I think what you're saying is, this is just the first step in understanding the project and making sure that we are getting the right and the important features in place.
Amitai, we have another really good question here. How does this work with agile methods? Are you giving offers with agile in mind?
Agile, do you mean having conversation with the client, like daily conversation? Because in what sense?
I have this question from the question feature in Theodorus, if you want to re-ask in a new way. But what I assume it means is, if you have an iterative approach to a project, and the definition of the project may change over time, how is that going to affect the way?
Okay, so that's a good question, and I think it also answers another question that I see here on Twitter of how we budget unknown unknowns. So I would say this is about having some ability of giving slight tough love. We like to give a lot of tough love our clients, but I would say let's start with slight, in the sense that I always like to tell the client, let's say you have a change request and you're not going to pay for it. Let's say I got into a fixed price with a terrible contract that I am able to accept every change request that you have. I'm exaggerating just for this. Now I'll ask the client, would it be right for you to postpone the release of your project in 1 month, in 2 months, get zero feedback from real users, or do you prefer to start, to release as soon as possible? So this is about, trying to break as much as possible and guide. This is part of our job, the way I see it. It's not about just doing the development. Like I said in the beginning, it's not just what they're saying, it's what they really need. So having those small phases, and to answer how do we budget the unknowns? We don't. We are very strict about what we commit to. So that's why we have this light discovery phase. Sometimes, if needed, we can have a longer paid discovery phase. So let's say we could have a 2 to 3 weeks discovery phase with a deliverable. The deliverable would be a markup, some real HTML that you are able to interact, to look at the browser, but it's connected to nothing. Why? Because the problems of it, this is a good question, because it's really, I think our Gizra way is trying to answer that. Having all those unknowns plus letting the clients decide on them, yeah, you should show some flexibility. You want to partner with, have some relation with the client. You cannot be that strict, but you are strict for the sake of their project. So this is what you ask. We did a quick discovery phase. We understand what you wanted. This is what we're going to deliver. There are no unknowns, in the sense that we're not gonna deliver something new. If you want to, completely stop and pivot, well, yeah, we should talk about it. But again, experience shows we're running with this way for about 2 years now. Yeah, it's not something that we invented last week. Clients respond well to strong leadership, in the sense that if you're coming and you're showing them concrete examples of why it's right for them not to have those crazy change requests, moving the logo 20 pixel to the right, that's not a crazy change request. I would do it, but I would not do it 10 times, and I won't suddenly add community functionality for a brochure site, right? So it's really about putting the line over there. So just to answer that specific question, how we budget the unknown, we do not. There's no, everything that the inventory list that we have, this is what we commit to, this is the deliverable that the client is going to add. We set the expectation across the boards for all the stakeholders. It's very clear for everybody what they're going to get.
Right. We have a few questions, but we're short on time. We have one person who's clearly a fan, Amitai. Would it be possible for Amitai to take off his shirt for the rest of the webinar? And I'm going to answer that and say no.
Yeah, no, I wanted to say no myself, don't worry. In the Twitter, that my recent tweet, I think I'm without a shirt and I'm slightly drunk. So if there are fans, yeah, you can, or you can private message me. We can.
Yeah, that's best handled in the DM. Great. Well, Amitai, thank you very much, and thanks to everybody for attending. If you have follow-up questions, feel free to tweet them still at this hashtag, the Gizra Way, or directly to Amitai or myself, and we'll be happy to answer. Amitai, anything to conclude with?
No, I think I enjoyed it myself. So thank you, Adam, for arranging everything. Great. And thanks everybody who joined and watched it live and asked all the questions.
Great. Thank you, everybody, and good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Cheers. Bye-bye.